Welcome to the next part of a deeper dive into the Technoprogressive Roadmap for the UK that starts to look at the 4 goals in the sphere of increased social flourishing. These 4 goals are a goal for the future of automation and the future of work, a goal about zero homelessness and zero involuntary hunger, a goal for the future of education, and a goal for the radical reduction in crime. Goal 3 is that automation will remove the need for anyone to earn money by working. Sooner or later, increasingly powerful automation systems, including robotics and AI, will be able to take over an ever-growing number of work tasks from humans. This should be seen not as a threat to the livelihood of employees, but as an opportunity for all of us to spend more time on matters of most interest to us. None of us should find ourselves spending time in labour that is back-breaking or soul-destroying, or in what we perceive as bullshit jobs. The threat to employment from automation has long been foretold. Up till now, these predictions seem to have been premature. People who have lost jobs in one occupation due to automation have been able to retrain to acquire jobs in new occupations. However, the closer that AI comes to AGI, the closer that artificial intelligence comes to possessing general capabilities in reasoning, the greater the credibility of the predictions of widespread unemployment and widespread underemployment. The closer that AI comes to AGI, the bigger the likely ensuing social disruption. Anticipating and managing this disruption will require significant changes to our social contract, the system by which people in society look after each other. Even though we cannot be sure of the timescales, we can make the following prediction. As AI improves, it's going to become increasingly hard for people who are displaced from one job by automation to quickly acquire new skills that will allow them to carry out a different job that has no short-term threat of also being automated. Therefore, sooner or later, more and more people are going to find themselves unexpectedly out of work, or if not unemployed, underemployed. Without an adequate social safety net, their standard of living is set to fall. If we are not careful, more and more people will experience a large blow to their self-esteem and self-confidence. There will be more and more alienation, more and more emotional distress, and more anger. However, as we see things, the requirement for people to seek paid employment belongs only to a temporary phase in the evolution of human culture. The basis for societies to be judged as effective or defective shouldn't be the proportion of people who avoid long-term unemployment. Instead, it should be the proportion of people who can flourish every single day of their lives. Accordingly, we should plan a stage-by-stage transformation of the social safety net so that all members of society have access to the goods and services that are fundamental to an agreed base level of human flourishing. We therefore propose the following high-level strategic direction for the economy. Prioritise the reduction of prices for all goods and services that are fundamental to human flourishing. In other words, the goal of the economy should no longer be to increase the GDP, the gross domestic product, made up of higher prices and greater commercial activity. Instead, the goal should be to reduce the costs of everything that is required for a good life, including housing, food, education, security, and much more. This will be part of taking full advantage of the emerging tech-driven abundance. The end target of this strategy is that all goods and services fundamental to human flourishing should have zero price. 3 policies carried out in parallel will advance towards this target. First, the policy of reducing underlying prices step by step via rapid adoption of improved automation. Second, the policy of providing public subsidies to alleviate whatever prices remain in place for these goods and services. Third, the policy of starting with an agreed basic set of goods and services, described by a cost of living well index, and step by step extending this set over time. For those goods and services which carry prices above zero, combinations of 3 sorts of public subsidies can be made available. First, an unconditional payment, sometimes called a UBI, an unconditional basic income, can be made available to all citizens of the country. Second, the UBI can be augmented by conditional payments, dependent on recipients fulfilling requirements agreed by society, such as perhaps education or community service. Third, there can be individual payments for people with special needs, such as particular healthcare requirements. These subsidies can be paid out of a public dividend, harvested from the abundant shared commons of society's accomplishments which are increasingly enabled by remarkable 21st century technologies. This abundance also arises from wise use of public assets, such as land, the legal system, the educational system, the wireless spectrum, and so on. The organisations who benefit the most from these shared resources should contribute equitably to the public dividend. In practical terms, payments can come from the following sources: stronger measures to counter tax evasion, addressing issues exposed by the Panama Papers, as well as unnecessary inconsistencies of different national tax systems. Increased licence fees and other rents paid by organisations who specially benefit from public assets, such as land, the legal system, the educational system, the wireless spectrum, and so on. Increased taxes on activities with negative externalities, such as a carbon tax for activities leading to greenhouse gas emissions, and a Tobin tax on excess short-term financial transactions, a higher marginal tax on extreme income and or wealth, reductions in budgets such as healthcare, prisons and defence, where the need should reduce once people's mental well-being has increased, and reductions in the budget for the administration of currently over-complex means-tested benefits. To accelerate progress, 2 targets for 2025 are proposed. The first target is agreement on an initial series of cost of living well indices. The intent is that the measured value of each index should decrease over time, approaching zero. The intent is also that, over time, more focus will be given to later indices in the series, indices that include a greater range of goods and services formerly regarded as luxury. The intent is that the value of these indices should approach zero in due course too. The second target for 2025 is agreement on the basic elements of a revised social contract in which paid employment loses the prime position it has in present-day society. Today, paid employment is viewed as being uniquely desirable. Today, unless someone undertakes paid employment, society tends to regard them as a substandard person who should be reproached or scorned. That attitude was useful to society in the past, but in the future we need new attitudes. See other videos in this series for a deeper dive into the 3 remaining goals in the sphere of increased social flourishing, and for more information about other aspects of the Technoprogressive Roadmap, published by the UK's Transhumanist Party.